That's what I see, yes.
Yes.
Attendance.
Excellent. So whenever you feel like starting.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. And if I can do the call to order, and pursuant to ARS 38-431.02, notice is given to the members of the commission and to the general public that at this meeting, the commission may vote to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public, for legal advice and discussion with the city attorneys for legal advice on any issue listed on the following agenda pursuant to the ARS 38-431.03A3. So if we can have roll call.
Carol Mandino.
Present.
Ian Sharp.
Present.
Marshall Camp. Mary Norton.
Present.
Ricardo Guthrie.
Presente.
Bob Harris. And Marie Jones is excused.
Okay.
Just making sure that Marshall Camp did not join. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is time for public comment, and at this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the commission today. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please wait for the chair to call for public comment at the time the item is heard. Do we have any public comment right now? Any public comment? So hearing none, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes from Wednesday, January 25th, 2023.
Commissioner Mandino, this is Commissioner Norton. I can move to approve the minutes from January 25th, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Hearing none, I can second the motion. So all in favor of the approval of the, well, let me ask if anybody has any corrections or additions to the minutes first from January 25th, 2023. Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes pass. That motion passes. Then we're moving on to general business. And I see we have another commissioner joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we're on the agenda at general business. And if we can have the staff give a presentation for PZ 19-00204-05.
Good afternoon, Chair Mandino and P&Z Commission. This is Genevieve, Pair 3. I'll be giving this presentation. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
And Genevieve, it's a little hard to hear you. I don't know if you can move closer.
Is that better?
No.
Okay.
I know I heard you better at the beginning, so. So I'm not sure if Genevieve got out to get back in so we could hear her better.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen and I will get started. All right. So before I, whoops, let me, there we go. Okay, before I go, I'll just let you know, all the previous times I presented as a senior planner in current planning, I actually have a new job in sustainability. So this will be my last presentation as a planner, but I'm just carrying this one forward. So just want to clarify that. But I'll go ahead and get started. So this is for a preliminary plat for Miramonte at Presidio and the Pines 6 condominiums. So this request is from Presidio Tract M, LLC, and it is for approval of the Miramonte at Presidio and the Pines 6 condominiums preliminary plat. It's located at 2950 West Presidio Drive. The plat is for a multifamily condominium subdivision with 39 residential units, and the site is 2.77 acres, and it's in the HC or highway commercial zone. So just to clarify, the purpose of this plat is to allow each unit to be sold individually. So it's not creating new lots in terms of pieces of land. It's just allowing these multifamily residential units to be sold individually. So again, the site is located at 2950 West Presidio Drive. So that's just north of I-40 and just east of Woody Mountain Road in the Presidio and the Pines subdivision. And here's a zoning vicinity map. So I mentioned previously it's in the HC zone. Most of Presidio and the Pines has HR zoning with a couple sections of HC. And then there's some MR and other zone properties across Woody Mountain Road. So here's an overview of the plat. So I mentioned it is a multifamily development. So there's 39 units across 3 buildings. So 13 units per building, 3 stories. And again, we're just creating individual units, not creating new plots of land. And this is just for reference, just to get a sense of what they'll look like. These are the elevations that were approved at site plan. So just you can see some of the buildings are single or kind of flat, and some of them are split level with the terrain. So we can see that now. But again, that's just for reference only to get a better context about what we're talking about today. So again, this condominium plat, so what it does is it identifies the vertical and horizontal boundaries of each unit. So where does the unit end? Where's the floor? Where's the ceiling? Where are the walls? It also identifies porches and decks that are associated with each unit. So those are called limited common elements, or LCEs. It also identifies common elements that are shared among all condominium owners. So that would be the common areas in the building, such as the breezeway or entryway, any spaces between walls and floor plates, mechanical elements, etc. It also includes Tract A, so that's all of the land outside of the buildings, and that has several purposes. It's open space, resource protection, driveway, drainage, etc. And I can just go back to that previous slide. Whoops. So you can see Tract A is everything outside of those buildings. And I mentioned that the plat identifies the vertical and horizontal boundaries of each unit. So each building has the floor plans for each floor that show where the units start and end, as well as where the floor and ceiling are. So that's how it identifies the airspace, is what that's called. So for plats, there are 3 findings or criteria for approval, and they are compliance with 3 different city code sections. So I'll go through each of those today, and they were also in my staff report. So the first one is City Code Title 10, that's the Flagstaff zoning code. The second one is City Code Title 11, that is general plans and subdivisions. And then the third one is City Code Title 13, which is the engineering design standards and specifications. So staff has found the plat meets these findings, so it was approved administratively by staff, but obviously plats have to go to P&Z and council to receive actual approval, so that's why we're here today. But staff does recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward the plat to City Council with a recommendation for approval. So the first finding, again, is compliance with the zoning code. So a little bit of background on this development. It is developing as a planned residential development, or PRD. So multifamily development that's just multifamily in the HC zone is required to develop as a PRD. So that process requires the development to select a transect zone, relevant transect zone standards that affect building placement and form, and then a specific building type and a private frontage type, and those are spelled out in the zoning code, and they each have specific standards they have to meet. So in this case, the building or the development is developing according to the T4 and 2 transect zone standards, as well as the apartment building type and then the forecourt private frontage type. So this development meets all the relevant standards for the T4 and 2 zone for building form and placement, such as setbacks and lot coverage. They selected, again, the apartment building type, which is a medium to large structure with up to 32 units per building. So it meets all those standards. And then they selected the forecourt private frontage type. So this is a building type that requires a portion of the main facade of the building to be at or near the front and have a small portion set back, kind of creating a forecourt space, which these buildings do. So in summary, these buildings are meeting these standards that are relevant to this development case. Moving forward, so for parking, pedestrian access, and vehicle circulation, access to the development will be from a new driveway that connects to Presidio Drive, and then from Presidio Drive goes straight out to Woody Mountain Road. 74 parking spaces are provided, but only 73 are required, so they're providing 1 additional parking space beyond what is required by code. And then 4 bike parking spaces are required, but 12 are being provided. So quite a bit more bike parking than the minimum in that case. Moving on to landscaping, open space, and resource protection. So there is an approved landscape plan that was approved with civil plans. So they're meeting all of their required landscaping through new trees as well as existing trees on the site that will be on the site after the project is developed. It's also required to set aside 15% of the lot area as open space, but this development is actually setting aside almost 50% of the lot area as open space. For resource protection, I did mention that there is a resource protection overlay on this site, so it is required to preserve resource trees as well as steep slopes. In this case, there are no steep slopes, so none that trigger those standards, so that section doesn't apply. However, they are required to preserve 30% of the trees, and they're preserving 36% on their approved natural resource protection plan. There's also a tree resource preservation easement that was from the original Presidio and the Pine subdivision plat that will be left as is, will not be disturbed. And then the development also sets aside an area for potential future ADOT right-of-way for if there's ever an I-40 interchange sometime in the future. You can see there's the site layout. This was their approved natural resource protection plan. So you can see there's quite a bit of open space and that they're meeting the resource protection standards. So moving on to the next finding, so that's compliance with engineering standards. So this has to do with traffic, water, wastewater, and stormwater. And staff from all of those departments did review this plan and approved it because it does meet the engineering standards. So I'll just go through those in detail. So the first one is the traffic impact analysis, so our TIA. So a TIA was approved for the original Presidio and the Pines development. This particular development fits into that in the larger Presidio and the Pines TIA, so a new TIA was not required. The same is true for a water sewer impact analysis. So there was one approved for the original Presidio and the Pines master plan development. The number of units in this proposed plat would fit into that. So a new water sewer impact analysis is not required. However, the development does have to provide new water and sewer lines that will be installed on site, but all other required or necessary water and sewer infrastructure is already in the street and around the site, so they don't need to add anything else. And then finally, for stormwater, there was an updated drainage report for the site that was approved with site plan review in 2020. This identified the need for a detention basin to capture and meter out stormwater, so known as low impact development. So as part of that, a drainage maintenance easement, or DME, will be dedicated to the city of Flagstaff with the final plat, and that is on the southeast corner of the site. So moving on to the third finding, that's compliance with the subdivision standards. So in this case, it's a specific subsection of that code, which is the subdivision and land split regulations. part. So it spells out preliminary plat procedures and application requirements, which this plat has met, which is why it went through staff review, and that's why we're here today. The second component is the minimum required subdivision improvements. So the public systems analyses are compliance with the engineering standards that I mentioned in the previous slide. Those identify what sort of improvements are needed to support this subdivision. It has met all of those, so it's meeting that part of the subdivision and land split regulations chapter. And then the last component is the subdivision standards and regulations. However, that section actually is not applicable to this plat because, again, we're not creating any new plots of land. So that one isn't applicable. But the plat does meet the other two sections, which are applicable. So in summary, staff has determined that the plat does comply with the required city code sections and that it meets the findings for approval. So again, that's compliance with those 3 city code sections: Title 10, the zoning code; Title 11, general plans and subdivisions; and Title 13, the engineering design standards and specifications. So staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward the preliminary plat to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. And that's all that I have for my presentation, but I believe the applicant is available if you have any questions, either for me or for the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a good presentation, and congratulations on your new position. And I'm sorry we won't be hearing you anymore at our meetings, but thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Genevieve? Mary Norton?
I do. I had a couple comments and questions. I realize obviously a lot of previous work has been put into this development by the commission and prior city councils over the last couple of years. I do recall even when this came to city council, and it was long before I was on the commission. But as I reviewed the packets and all the things that I would have normally have been looking for, such as open space and resource protection, it's all there. And I also saw that I think that was a requirement when it was at city council about the minimum 30 days so that short-term rentals don't soak up this opportunity for permanent residents to own or rent full-time in a condominium of this type, and that there was even some attainable housing at 100% AMI, which was really great to see. And I would hope that even, based on the unit sizes that, maybe this is attainable housing even at market rate for our residents. It's also glad to see the ADOT right away in case, in the future it allows for that growth to accommodate an interchange. But I had a question, I guess for you, Genevieve, first, and then I do have a question about the product. But with regard to open space and Foot's connectivity, because I see a lot of the intention of future Foot's trails from being on the Open Spaces Commission. There's a future planned Foots along Woody Mountain Road. And of course, currently the section of Woody Mountain Road that borders Presidio has a sidewalk on the east side of Woody Mountain Road. Is that sidewalk considered part of the future Foots connectivity, or would there be a more typical Foots installed on the west side when that area is developed?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Norton, for your comments and questions. I appreciate you looking and making sure you're covering all your bases there and reading the staff report and the history. So it does have quite a bit. In terms of the Foots Trail, I believe it is located on the west side of the street. I know, that the other side of Woody Mountain, a little bit to the north, is developing, and I believe the Foots is going along that side as that area develops. So I don't believe it's on the same side of the street as this development.
Okay, I just was wondering at what point in the progression of development along Woody Mountain Road does that get attended to? So that explains it. If it's going to be on the west side, then it would be for the landowners on that side. So, okay, great. And then my question, more product oriented. So according to the units as drawn, they were anywhere from approximately 500 square feet, 700, 800, 1,000, and 1,300 square foot units. Can anyone address maybe the bedroom counts for those units, and just the type of product that will be offered? Are there any floor plans drawn at this point for those?
Is somebody here representing Miramount? Do you have a presentation for us?
Hello, this is Charity Lee with Miramonte Homes. I do not have a presentation for you. We have I'm sorry, actually, I don't have all the information on the various bedroom sizes, but we do have 1 bedrooms, studio, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms on this development. And so there is a combination of different bedrooms. So Commissioner, I noticed that you had mentioned the ability to have market rate units for the community. And right now, this development is similar to what we're building at Ponderosa Parkway. And we have the market rate units that are about $200,000. And those are the affordable units that we're offering for sale. So there is an opportunity for the community members to be able to buy and purchase the studio or the smaller units at a more reasonable price that we're seeing in the market right now.
Great. That's exactly what I was looking for. And it was just more for out of interest and information. I know it doesn't have anything to do with this plat per se, but I appreciate the extra info, and I'm glad to see product like this come along. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? I do have one question, and Charity, maybe you'll be able to answer it. I was just looking at the parking, and without counting all the spaces, when it comes off of Presidio Drive, looks like 3 spaces. Are those the regular parking spaces counted along with the whole big parking lot?
All of the parking is within the development. So if you're seeing you mean after you're coming into the development off of Presidio Drive?
Right. So it would be on the drive that's going into the apartment building. It looks like there's maybe 3 spaces off the drive, and then it opens up into a bigger parking lot.
Oh, correct. Yes, I see them now. Yes, yeah. Those are parking spaces.
So those are part of the 74.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. And again, I'm going to ask if anybody else has any questions. And I see Ian has a question. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't have a question, but I do want to disclose some past involvement I had on this. I'm a civil engineer here in town, and I was hired by Presidio and the Pines to review this on their behalf to assure that there was no issues as this development came forward that they would have to take on or cause them as far as drainage is related. So I just want to share that was my involvement on this. I'm not employed in any way by them anymore. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alex, does that preclude him from voting on this issue, or is that okay?
Ian and I spoke about this earlier. It's not a direct conflict of interest. So if he feels like he can be impartial, he can still vote on the matter.
Okay, thank you. All right.
And I do feel impartial.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anybody else that has any questions or comments at this time? Okay, and Ian, if you can lower your hand if you have no other questions. And I just wanted to offer to Charity if you have anything to add.
I'd just like to inform you that the project, is progressing nicely. We're under construction with our horizontal construction. We have submitted recently our model plans for approval. I expect to get those back from the city of Flagstaff within the next couple weeks. And once the final plat is approved, we plan to start vertical construction within the next month here. So the project is moving along nicely, and hope to start leasing and well, excuse me, selling. We have a lot of projects right now, but we do plan to sell these condos quickly, and we're excited to bring them to the market.
Okay, thank you. Again, any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I would ask if there's a commissioner who would like to make a motion.
Chairman Mendino, I'll take a stab at it. I motion to approve to recommend to City Council PZ 1900204005 for Miramonte at Presidio in the Pines condominiums as presented according to the findings.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, this is Ian Sharp. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the motion? Or any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for attending today. The next item on our agenda is miscellaneous items to and from council members or commission members. Does anybody have anything? Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Alex for sending that email earlier, sharing that link from Tyler Denham of the Housing Commission about that webinar. I actually tuned in and found it interesting. And so I just wanted to say thanks for sharing that I was able to listen in. I think for Flagstaff, we're a little ahead of the game in that we allow ADUs to be built on lots. I think other cities in the state have more of a challenge to change their zoning to accommodate that. But anyway, it was still really interesting. And now if we can just get builders to build what we need, I think that we'd be moving forward. But thanks for sharing the info.
Hey, thanks, Mary. I wasn't able to attend because I had other items on my agenda. So maybe if you could just type up some notes from that, because I did want to attend it, but I didn't have the time in my calendar to do so.
Sure, I can send it to Alex and then have Alex send it out to everyone. Is that would be the proper funnel, Alex? Is that correct?
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Are there any other miscellaneous items to and from commission members? We'll miss Genevieve. I see she's already gotten off, but tell her we'll miss her. And seeing that there's no other miscellaneous items, we're adjourned. It's 4:29, I believe it is. 4:30. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.